Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 20 of The Bible Yogi. I'm your host, Douglas Roberts. And today we'll be covering Genesis, the Forgotten Scriptures, Part 2, or rather, the scriptures I skipped over when doing all the stories of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Joseph and Noah and all those. Today we'll be covering the Tower of Babel and the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. The Tower of Babel. It's kind of interesting as I was preparing this episode. The Google Play Babel app popped up on my phone, which of course is their new language translation service, or teach you a new language. And so it's interesting that they named their product Babel. Why? Well, because that's what the story of the Tower of Babel is all about. So let's read it. Genesis chapter 11. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech, a very convenient thing to have. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. You may recall that Nimrod was the man who built the city of Nineveh, and it was in the plain of Shinar. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, for they have imagined, which they have imagined to do. So apparently this was an issue. God had just endured war in heaven with Satan and the angels, and we hear about that later in the book of Revelation. But Lucifer was once an angel, and they say that he grabbed a third of the angels and dragged them to follow him, and he waged war in heaven. And Michael the archangel threw Lucifer and the third of angels out of heaven. So God might be a little bit sensitive when, now mankind is trying to build a tower up into heaven. He says, I don't need no more war in heaven, right? So let us go down there and there confound their language that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So I love that. It's like he didn't go and cause them a war to break out or anything like that. It was a very amazing bit of godlike wizardry, where all of a sudden I'm just going to invent all 250 languages necessary to split everybody up. And if you think about how cool that is, we speak English, but there's like Japanese, and there's Chinese, Mandarin, which is tonal, and then there's all the Latin-based languages like French and Spanish and Italian, and then there's the more Cyrillic alphabets like Polish and Croatian and Russian, and so it's neat to sit there and God just looks down and goes, I know what I'll do. I'll make them all talk a different language. And it all happens. What kind of an intellect would that take, right? That's pretty amazing. But this concept of Babel and all the languages being split up has captured the minds of many marketers and authors. Back in the day when the internet was a young place, back in the 90s, there was a website called Babelfish that Yahoo had, which was a free web-based machine translation services by Yahoo. It was replaced by the Bing Translator, now Microsoft Translator. The internet service derived its name from the Babelfish, a fictional species in Douglas Adams' book and radio series The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that could instantly translate languages. In turn, the name of the fictional character refers to the biblical account of the confusion of languages that arose in the city of Babel. So I like how this story has captured the imagination of so many. Now we move on to one of the more serious stories in all of the Bible, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now we'll preface this just a little bit. Abraham, one of my favorite characters in the Bible, was a patriarch, and him and his nephew Lot, who is featured in this story, had both had herds of goats and sheep and cattle and camel and all that got so large that they couldn't coexist in the same area, and their herdsmen were fighting. And so Abraham said, we can't deal with this, Lot. You go that way, I'll go this way. And so Lot said, okay. Lot went that way, which was the direction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and Abraham went the other way, which I forget what city was that, Beersheba probably, right? And later, very soon after that, there was the Battle of the Nine Armies, or the nine cities. Four kings rose up against five other kings. And the five other kings had in there Sodom and Gomorrah. And the four kings won. They won all the battles. They captured all the people. So Lot and his family were all dragged off into captivity, going to become slaves and all that to the four kings. And Abraham heard of it. He gave all of his 400 manservants and all the people in his camp, in his company, weapons. And they went out, and they recaptured all of the prisoners that the four kings had captured. They slaughtered the kings and returned all the people back to Sodom and Gomorrah, including Lot. So the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, they knew who Lot was, because they definitely knew who Abraham was, because they had just been rescued of him maybe a couple years ago. You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, we don't know who Abraham is. No, they definitely did. So that's a little bit of the understory here. So next, we covered the part where Abraham actually contended with God over God's plan to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham said, "Now wait a minute, God. How could you destroy the righteous along with the wicked? You shouldn't do that. If there's 50 righteous people, you should spare the city. Wouldn't you agree?" And God said, "Yeah, 50 people. If we find 50 people, we'll leave the city alone." And Abraham bargained all the way down to 10. What if there's 10 righteous people? Will you spare the city? And God said, yeah. 10 people are there that are righteous. I'll spare the city. So, okay. The two angels that were with God and Abraham having this discussion, they head off to Sodom and Gomorrah to see if they can find 10 righteous people. Let's see what happens. And there came two angels to Sodom at evening, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground, and he said, "Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and you shall rise up early and go on your ways." And they said, "Nay, but we will abide in the street all night." And Lot pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, because Lot knew what kind of people he was living with, right? And entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, encircled it, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, "Where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them." I don't know about you, it sounds like they have ill intent. That's what I'm gathering from this. But notice how soft-spoken or underscored, or what's the word I'm looking for? Understated, that's the word. But look how understated the Bible is. That bring them out to us that we may know them. Yeah, I'm sure they were all that polite about it, right? So, okay. And Lot went out to the door unto them and shut the door after him and said, "I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore they came they under the shadow of my roof. In other words, Lot had an obligation in his mind to these men to save them. He was the one who invited them inside, and now these people want to, kill him, basically. It is really weird to anyone reading this that why did Lot offer up his own daughters in place of these 2 guys? Why didn't you say, oh, you want these 2 angels? Take them. I'm not going to let my family suffer, oh well, right? But that's not the way Lot behaved. And what we do know is that the men refused the offer. So maybe Lot was smart enough to know that these guys would never harm me or my family. Why? Well, because they know that Abraham, the guy who just took on 4 kings and rescued them, has my back. That's one of my theories, is that they knew who Lot was and they knew who Abraham was, so they're not about to mess with him. But the 2 guys, sure, they'll take them, so that's part of it. But at any rate, let's see what happens. And they said, stand back, you. And they said again, this one fellow came into sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, the angels, and pulled Lot into the house and shut the door. Now, you remember when God just solved the tower into heaven problem just by splitting all their languages up. The angels have a similar minimalistic tactic here. They smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. They're here to destroy the city. You might think, well, why don't they just start now, right? Chung, chung. Maybe some angel-type arrows or guns or something. But no, they just wave the hand, a little bit of blindness, solve that problem. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides? Son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him outside of the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, O not so, my lord. Behold now, thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shewed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me, and I die. Behold now, this city is near to flee to, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither, there. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, see, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for which thou hast spoken. So now this city is spared in the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither, till you go over there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But Lot's wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Now, there's a lot we can say about all of that. The first and most obvious thing is that the name of the city, Sodom, has become known to mean sexual perversion, sodomy. And so that's interesting. And we can pretty much rest assured that when two destroying angels show up into your town, that the last thing in the world you want to do is to try to drag them out into the streets and have sport with them, you know? You probably want to let them go. You might want to hold a church service and invite them to sing. You don't want to try to, accost them. They paid dearly for that, clearly. This was their big chance to, assuage the anger of God, and they blew it. Now, the whole thing about Lot's wife looking back from behind him and she became a pillar of salt. Later, Jesus mentions, remembered Lot's wife. And he said it in reference to the fact that she was longing for the city of Sodom, or she had probably, I don't know, had friends there, maybe a business, maybe she liked the place, but it was a wicked, evil place. And so much so these guys are trying to rape angels, right? They're not, that's not a good sign if your inhabitants are willing to do that kind of stuff. But his wife, looked, apparently when she looked back, it wasn't just I want to catch the explosion, It was a look of longing, and it was a look of, I don't know, just longing, I guess is the best word for it. So after reading about that, I remembered that in my book I had, in other episodes, there's this Bible Atlas, and it had in it a page about possible sites of Sodom and Gomorrah from an archaeological viewpoint. And they mentioned that in the northern part of the Dead Sea, there were these limestone deposits that archaeologists believed was the site of Sodom and Gomorrah. And yet, it was only a small little article, and I wasn't really happy with that. So I decided to augment my knowledge by having a discussion with ChatGPT, which turned out to be pretty amazing. At the beginning of the conversation, ChatGPT is all like, oh, there's competing theories. It could be a natural disaster. It could be earthquakes. It could be, a natural fire that took place and all this stuff. And some scientists believe, that this could have happened, and other scientists believe that this could have, and she's being very, fair, judicious. By the end of this conversation, she's going, yeah, God did it. And so it's pretty hilarious. So let's I'm probably going to copy this whole thing into the description of the video because it's long, but it was really a cool conversation. So I started the conversation off with, what do you know about the limestone deposits in the northern part of the Dead Sea? And some archaeologists speculating that this has something to do possibly with the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. What does limestone have to do with that? So she answers and says, the limestone deposits in the northern part of the Dead Sea are geologically significant, but their connection to the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah is based on speculative theories rather than concrete evidence. Well, of course, what no one in Sodom was going to write a report. Yes, let me carve this into stone for antiquity that we're being rained down upon. It's like, well, the Bible is your concrete evidence, okay? But check this out. Here's what is known. Limestone and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Presence of limestone and bitumen in the region. The Dead Sea region is rich in limestone, sulfur, and bitumen, asphalt deposits. Bitumen seeps were known in antiquity, and some ancient historians, like Josephus, mention sulfur and asphalt as characteristic of the area. And then there's this whole thing about the natural disaster theory. Some scholars suggest that an event such as an earthquake, gas explosion, or a meteor impact could have ignited underground bitumen and sulfur deposits, leading to a fire destruction that matches the biblical account. Well, sure, that sure would. I mean, God didn't cause the destruction out of, nothing, right? He didn't send ghosts to destroy the city. He sent fire and brimstone. So it goes on, But what's interesting, I wanted to highlight just the main thing. That's why I said I'll probably copy it into the description. Limestone itself is not flammable, but when exposed to extreme heat, it decomposes into quicklime, calcium oxide, and carbon dioxide. This reaction, if occurring on a large scale, could contribute to widespread devastation. Conclusion: while limestone deposits alone don't explain Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction, the combination of sulfur, bitumen, earthquakes, and fire could provide a natural explanation. Whether this aligns with the biblical account is still a topic of debate. Would you like more details on any specific theory? And so I go, Yes, to be specific, are we seeing copious amounts of limestone, sulfur, and calcium oxide in the northern region of the Dead Sea? Is that what leads scientists to postulate on the connection? The Dead Sea region, particularly its northern part, is characterized by a complex geological composition. The area is rich in limestone, sulfur, and bitumen asphalt deposits. These geological features have led some scientists to explore potential connections between these natural resources and the biblical account of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? So then we go through their geological composition. We have limestone, and then we have lots of sulfur. And gypsum formations in the area can reach heights of 6 meters or more. So it's pretty crazy. Bitumen, historically, the Dead Sea was referred to Lake Asphalt heights due to the presence of bitumen deposits. The presence of these materials has led to several hypotheses. And she goes on, she's natural combustion, cosmic impact, yada, yada. It remains a topic of ongoing research and debate, yeah. In summary, the abundance of limestone, sulfur, and bitumen in the northern Dead Sea has provided a basis for scientists to explore natural explanations for the biblical account. However, definite conclusions have yet to be reached. So she's being very diplomatic. And so I ask her, what does the presence of bitumen apply? The presence of bitumen, a naturally occurring form of asphalt and tar, carries several significant geological and historical implications. And it goes on and on and on, but the main thing is that it's flammable. So, the presence of bitumen in the Dead Sea indicates a long history of geological activity, hydrocarbon reserves, and ancient trade uses. It also provides a potential natural explanation for the biblical account, whether through earthquakes, blah, blah, blah. So finally, after reading all that, and like I said, I'll leave it all in the description, I say, or I suppose if God Almighty really did rain down fire and brimstone, then limestone, calcium oxide, sulfur, and bitumen might be expected to be found in a concentrated region, hence the scientific speculation. Yes, exactly. If an event resembling the biblical destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah truly occurred as described, where God rained down fire and brimstone, then the presence of concentrated deposits of limestone, calcium oxide, sulfur, and bitumen in the northern Dead Sea region could be seen as potential physical remnants of that cataclysmic event. Then it goes on how these elements fit the biblical narrative. Brimstone is evidence of extreme heat. The Bible specifically mentions brimstone. High purity sulfur deposits in the region suggest exposure to intense burning. Some sulfur samples in the area are above 90% pure, indicating an unusual formation process, possibly from a high temperature event. Calcium oxide, heat transformation of limestone. If limestone, calcium carbonate, is exposed to extreme heat, it chemically transforms into calcium oxide, quicklime. Quicklime is highly caustic and reacts violently with water, generating even more heat, consistent with a massive fiery event. Bitumen, flammable tar-like substance. Bitumen was present in the region naturally, and if ignited, it would create a long-lasting inferno. The Dead Sea area historically had asphalt seeps, and ancient texts even describe floating tar pits. This could explain how entire cities could have been engulfed in flames. Limestone deposits, geological evidence of an ancient catastrophe. The entire Dead Sea region is rich in limestone, but its altered chemical state in certain areas suggests it has been subjected to intense heat. Some researchers believe the Dead Sea Rift was the site of seismic or cosmic activity. It goes on to give the, what scientists try to explain away. But check this out. If God supernaturally brought down fire and brimstone, the lingering physical evidence could be exactly what we'd expect to find today. So the speculation arises because the precise combination of sulfur, quicklime, and bitumen suggests an ancient fiery calamity localized in this area. The fact that this matches the biblical narrative so closely is why many scientists and biblical researchers take it seriously. So at the beginning, she's all like, oh, it could have been this, could have been that. By the end here, she's practically a believer. So I find that really, really hilarious. So I ask some more questions about the Mount Sodom, and there's a rock formation called Lot's Wife, and she confirms that, yes, it's very close to this region of the sulfur that we've just been discussing. And then she gives the conclusion, yes, Mount Sodom and Lot's Wife are geographically close to the geological evidence linked to an intense fire event. Whether you interpret it as a divine act or a natural disaster, or a combination of both, the physical features of the area make it one of the most fascinating locations in biblical archaeology. And then the other next question that popped into my head was, is there any other geological site in the world that has comparable minerals? And she goes, yes, there are a few. Now this is truly the value of chatGPT. This kind of thing, how long would it take anyone to research something like this, even with Google? But she just boop, 2 seconds. Yes, there are a few geological sites around the world that contain comparable minerals, such as sulfur, bitumen, limestone, and salt, especially in areas with volcanic activity, yada, yada, yada. However, the Dead Sea region is unique because of the specific combination and concentration of these materials in a context that aligns with the biblical destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And she goes on to give those sites, Yellowstone National Park, the La Brea Tar Pits, Hell's Gate National Park in Kenya, the Wade Tuff in China, the Great Salt Flats in Utah, and they got some of them, but not all 5. And then she goes on to say what makes things unique, and then there is evidence of a nearby small city of Zoar. And she goes on and gives all kinds of evidence of definitely enough evidence of small cities. One of them was named Zoara right here. The presence of an inscription using the name Zoara is strong evidence that people in later periods, I'm sorry about that, identified this site as the biblical Zoar. So not only that, there's like 5 different sites that could have been Zoar, but the one that says Zuara, that's probably it. So I hope that helps your faith. It sure helped mine. It's a little bit scary realizing that this evidence exists. But even better than having geological evidence is the fact that Jesus referred to it when he was talking about the second coming. So in Luke chapter 17, verses 20, when he was demanded of the Pharisees when the kingdom of God should come, Jesus answered them and said, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation, neither shall they say, lo here, or lo there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. And he said unto the disciples, the days will come when ye shall desire to see one of the days of the Son of Man, and ye shall not see it. And they shall say to you, see here, see there, do not go after them, don't follow them. For as the lightning that lighteth out of the one part under heaven shineth unto the other part under heaven, so shall the Son of Man be in his day. But first he must suffer many things, and be rejected of this generation. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also be in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they did drink, they married wives, they were given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded, but the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day he shall be upon the housetop, and his stuff in the house. Let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not turn back. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. I tell you, in that night there shall be two men in one bed. The one shall be taken, and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken, and the other left. Two men shall be in the field. The one shall be taken, and the other left. And they answered and said unto him, Where, Lord? And he said unto them, Wheresoever the body is, thither will the eagles be gathered together. Some pretty ominous scriptures about the second coming. And with that, have a good day. Until next time, everybody, take care.